Hey guys, welcome to Rocket Review. In today's video, we're going to be doing a review of the OnePlus 9 Pro. If you're new here, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell to receive more videos like this. The OnePlus 9 Pro is a genuine flagship phone that is truly competitive with the best Android phones on the market, at least in terms of features and quality. However, in terms of market and mindshare, it is still destined to be a niche device for a small group of enthusiasts seeking a certain level of elegance in their Android device. And perhaps that's a good thing. OnePlus flagship phones always come with a laundry list of top-of-the-line specs, but what makes the OnePlus 9 Pro special is how well those specs translate into one of the best Android experiences available. Let's get started. Let's start with the hardware design of the phone. The OnePlus 9 Pro's hardware design is the most seamless and elegant that the company has created to date. It is, of course, enormous, and it has a 6.7-inch screen that extends from edge to edge in the body and is narrow enough that I can only use it with one hand. One thing that stands out is how far OnePlus has progressed in terms of build quality. With no seams, the glass on the front and back curves into the aluminum rail on the edges, it's well balanced, lovely and sturdy. It's also a doppelganger of the Galaxy S20 Plus. It's the same design if you move a few buttons around, move the selfie camera to the center, and change the logo. I understand that there's only so many ways to combine curved glass and aluminum, but it's uncanny. To be fair, OnePlus retains some of its identity in the 3-stage ringer switch, which allows you to easily toggle between ringer, vibration, and completely silent modes. It's still my favorite feature on OnePlus phones, and I'm perplexed as to why more Android phone manufacturers don't include a physical ringer switch. In terms of vibration, the OnePlus 9 Pro's haptics isn't sloppy at all. Unlike many Android phones, unfortunately the trade-off is that they aren't particularly powerful. Might be difficult to feel it vibrate in your pocket. It supports both sub-6 and millimeter wave 5G, but there's a major caveat. The phone supports it, but OnePlus has only received 5G certification from its carrier partner T-Mobile. If you buy it unlocked, it'll only work with T5G mobile network for the time being. Everything else is going to be LTE. AT&T 5G support does not appear to be in the cards, and OnePlus says it continues to work with Verizon to certify both the 9 and 9 Pro on its 5G network. Now let's look at the screen of the OnePlus Pro. OnePlus, like Samsung, has switched to an LTPO style of OLED, which is more power efficient and gives the company more control over the refresh rate. Depending on what happens on the display, the screen can go from 120 Hz to 1 Hz. OnePlus has branded the touch response rate on the screen as HyperTouch, clocked at 360 Hz for certain games, and while you might be a bit skeptical if it makes that much of a difference for gamers, OnePlus claims it does. The screen resolution is more important, 144 by 3216 at 525 ppi. You can keep it at that high resolution while you're running the high refresh rate screen. This probably reduces battery life, but the point of the high-spec phone is to maximize the specs. The specs on the screen are important, but it's the experience that counts. And once again, OnePlus has outdone itself. Something about the animation tuning in Oxygen OS makes this phone feel smoother than even Samsung phones. You'll also appreciate the color tuning, which, while not as subtle as the iPhone or a Pixel, is more restrained than Samsung's default settings. Battery and charging. The standout feature for OnePlus is its proprietary charging technology. A 65-watt charger is included in the box, and it can charge the phone extremely quickly. The phone's 4,500 mAh battery is actually split in two, which speeds up charging even more. You can spend an extra $69 on OnePlus's new Wrap Charge 50 wireless charger if you want. It charges at 25 watts, but because the battery is split, charging at 50 watts wirelessly is essentially the same. It also works when the phone is placed on the charger in landscape mode. With the phone completely dead, it charged in 45 minutes. It took a little longer with ambient mode enabled in Google Assistant, but it was still lightning fast compared to other wireless chargers. So while the battery life isn't the best in class, the way OnePlus has built its charging ecosystem means you can top off faster than you can with other phones, as long as you use OnePlus's proprietary chargers, of course. Now let's take a look at the camera. Without going into too much detail, until recently the main shortcoming of OnePlus phones was their camera quality. It's also a particularly bad way to fail because the photos taken by phones are often the clearest and simplest way to compare phones that otherwise look and perform nearly identically. OnePlus is well aware of this and intends to position the OnePlus 9 Pro as a worthy rival, or at the very least a viable alternative to the best that Samsung and even Apple have to offer. So it did what many challenger brands do, partnered up. This year, Hasselblad's involvement with OnePlus's development process amounted to the company tuning the camera's colors and lending a bit of its interface to the camera's Pro mode. Most importantly for OnePlus, Hasselblad agreed to have its logo stamped next to the lenses. This color tuning influence definitely deserves some credit. OnePlus is developing its own look for its photos, similar to how other smartphone brands do. iPhone photos are generally flat and neutral, leaning towards the warm side of the color spectrum. Pixel photos are contrasty and blue, and Samsung's photos have that vibrant slider set to the maximum. The image output of the OnePlus 9 Pro is mostly in the middle. It has a blue tint to it, and it definitely lifts shadows to create more and even lighting. Its photos are more eye-catching but less accurate than those of an iPhone. The camera system is good, but it can't compete with the quality of an iPhone 12 Pro Max or a Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra, both of which are more expensive than the OnePlus 9 Pro. The difference, as with most smartphone cameras, is due to software. The colors produced by the 9 Pro are unquestionably pleasing, but it occasionally tries too hard and whiffs. Similarly, OnePlus appears to want to bring some of that pixel contrast magic to the table, but instead over-sharpens. And while listening shadows is something commendable, it's not when it introduces completely unnecessary and distracting image noise. The main camera has a new 48-megapixel Sony sensor with OIS, but when I asked OnePlus what the sensor brings to the table, I didn't get a clear answer. In Pro mode, you can shoot 12-bit RAW images, 2-bit more than last year if you're keeping track. That's all well and good, but the interface in Pro mode is even more impressive. You can clearly see what it is in manual mode and what it is in the auto mode. It's also simple and straightforward to use. The most useful feature is focus peaking, which draws small lines over the area of the image that is in focus. It is much clearer and more enjoyable to use than the tap to focus feature found on other phones. Of course, you can do that here as well. Other cameras on the OnePlus 9 Pro include a large 50-megapixel ultra-wide with a sensor that's a lot nicer than the usual step-down sensors that ultra-wides are stuck with. OnePlus included a custom lens to help with edge distortion, and it works just as well or better than pure software fixes at keeping straight lines from bowing. The telephoto camera has a zoom of 3.3x, which is particularly impressive. Aside from that, digital zoom is in shambles. The S21 Ultra with its periscope-style lens outperforms it. There's also a monochrome camera that appears to be a helper for the rest of the system, but doesn't appear to be doing anything particularly important. OnePlus software-focused Nightscape mode is great for capturing nighttime shots, but it over-brightens the image in my opinion. Portrait mode is a mixed bag. Heads are frequently artificially cut out from the blurry background. Again, you can get good shots, but portrait mode was frequently one of those situations where you might need to try the shot again. The selfie camera performs admirably in bright light, but rapidly degrades in low light. Unfortunately, video is just as sloppy. The OnePlus 9 Pro can shoot in 8K 30 or 4K 120, but neither looked good. In fact, regular old 4K 30 has that over-processed and over-sharpened look that you see so often on smartphones. The main new feature is improved HDR for backlit subjects, but the effect is minimal at best. When compared to phones that cost more than this phone, there's a lot of critical mistakes. Despite the price difference, I believe the OnePlus 9 Pro's camera should be held to the highest possible standard. After all, it's a flagship phone. It can sometimes compete with the best of the best, which is a win. OnePlus 9 Pro Performance and Oxygen OS 11. Oxygen OS is OnePlus's version of Android, and it is now at version 11. The company has taken Samsung's idea of moving content down to meet your thumb and added support for always-on ambient display. The animations are smooth, and OnePlus has learned the painful lesson of having apps close in the background too frequently. OnePlus has committed to 2 major OS updates and 3 years of bi-monthly security updates, putting it ahead of brands such as LG, but trailing Samsung and Google. A few things, such as the font and icons, can be customized. One cool customization is an ambient display mode which shows a colorful bar that shows how frequently you've used your phone throughout the day. One feature borrowed from Apple and or Microsoft is the ability to separate your widgets into a separate panel, accessible via a quick swipe down so they don't clutter your main home screen. It's lovely, if only it wasn't mapped to the same thing that other Android phones use to quickly dismiss notifications. But for the most part, Oxygen OS is uncomplicated, especially when compared to Samsung. OnePlus isn't promoting its own app and service ecosystem, though with the new OnePlus Watch coming, perhaps that may change. Unlike Samsung, it also does not saturate its own apps with advertisements. The OnePlus 9 Pro does not qualify as a flagship killer. It may be just another flagship phone, although it is slightly less expensive than the top-tiered competitors. It's still pricey as a phone that makes a lot of promises. It mostly delivers on them. Even though OnePlus phones are purchased by a small percentage of customers, when compared to Apple and Samsung, the company has established a track record long enough to warrant its status as an established brand. And that concludes today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell if you want to see more videos like this. While you're here, check out one of the other two videos on the screen, and we'll see you there.